mixed bag. We need a strong governor to replace Gavin Newsom, who's had many strengths and a few not strengths. I hope Californians choose wisely. I know Javier. He served in Congress for a long time before he replaced Kamala Harris as Attorney General, and then was Health Secretary. To mixed reviews, got to say that, under the Biden administration.
Right. So Abel, let me ask you this, because you mentioned what you think Democrats have done wrong in this campaign, just making this a campaign on Donald Trump. What about Republicans here? You served, as we heard, under then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is that type of bipartisan approach possible for a Republican in California still now, you think?
Well, obviously, Arnold and I served 16 years ago. There's been 16 years of a Democratic gubernatorial governing here. So, yes, are we missing some of the bipartisan of Governor Schwarzenegger and myself? Absolutely. It seems like now you have to be extreme right or extreme left, and kind of where we're going. So in this campaign for governor, Sumi, I think that's what the point I was trying to make. Javier Becerra obviously just talked about Trump, but let's realize it. Let's face it. Jane just said this, billionaires are leaving. That is true. 6 billionaires have left. Who's going to replace that personal income tax for them? Is there going to be cuts? What are we going to do? California is in trouble, and Steve Hilton has got a tough task ahead of him. The only way Mr. Hilton can win is by getting Democrat votes, because the registration here is way, way lopsided toward the Democrats. So the question is what is Mr. Hilton going to do in the next 3 months to bring Democrats to vote for him and independents? It's going to be a tough challenge, but you know what? If change is in the air, and what do we have to lose on change? If change is in the air, he might have a shot, but it's going to be very difficult.
Okay, we have to leave that conversation there, but maybe we have both of you back on in November when we see how this race ends up. But we were just talking about Silicon Valley. Let's look at that from a broader perspective, because in the global race for dominance in new technology and artificial intelligence, China and the U.S. are right now the clear front runners, and Europe feels like it's been left behind. It's worried about being too reliant on potentially unreliable superpowers.
Well, now Brussels wants to diversify so-called critical tech for things like hospitals, energy grids and the military. Diverse away from Beijing and from Washington. The new European Union strategy is called tech sovereignty.
Yeah, the European Commission has set out proposals to help European tech companies, favoring them for the provision of computing services and sensitive public contracts. In essence, it boils down to striving for tech independence as opposed to tech dependence on others.
So, for example, the EU would strive to develop its own homegrown semiconductors, artificial intelligence and cloud services. Well, let's talk more about this to the broadcaster Stephanie Hare. She's a tech researcher and co-presenter, sometimes with me, of the BBC's AI Decoded programme. So welcome, Stephanie. What do you think? Is this Europe kind of flexing its muscles, trying to get into the race with the United States and China?
Do you know what? I don't think this is a tech story at all. It looks like one, but just bear with me. I think what it really shows is that the special relationship that we saw between the United States and Europe really throughout the 20th century, and particularly after World War II, with all of that American investment to help rebuild after the war, that's over. That era of trust and mutual reciprocity is over, because yes, Europe has been dependent on American technology, but American technology is dependent on European consumers. Right? So this goes both ways. It's not that Europe's been weak. It's that for a really long time, that relationship worked because it was based on trust and friendliness. But under the Trump administration, particularly the second Trump administration, that trust has been broken. And we've also seen, I think, the Europeans wake up to things like their energy dependency because of Russia invading Ukraine and what that did, or even the United States attacking Iran, what that's done to the cost of living and energy prices, again, here in Europe. So I think there's been a wake-up call within the policymakers in Europe to go, we need to be more resilient across the board. And yes, technology is going to be a big part of that. But frankly, so will energy and a lot of other things.
But then, Stephanie, if they have woken up in Europe to the question of tech, is it too late? I suppose that's the question. Is America and China already far too far ahead?
I mean, they definitely have a very strong head start, but is it too late? It depends. I mean, where's your finish line? Eventually, if Europe wants to get going on this and really commit, they could absolutely develop strength. And I think also, let's not be too simplistic about it. It's not going to be like the United States stands alone, China stands alone, and the European Union stands alone, and Britain is somewhere off to the northeast or northwest. What's going to happen is there's going to continue to be interdependency in trade. And I think if the Europeans were clever, if they wanted, they would actually say to their American friends and competitors, this is actually an incredible investment opportunity. Come partner with us, invest with us. We're going to try and build up our own strengths, but we're going to have to learn from you. The Americans will find a way to make this benefit them as well. The really big issue is going to be about things like security, because a lot of the US laws still make it where if they wanted, they could still access European data. The Europeans do need to solve that problem.
But does Europe have enough big companies? So we were just talking there, assuming you were saying about California, $4 trillion economy, fourth biggest economy in the world, with all those mega tech companies. I mean, Europe doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat this. Europe is definitely starting from behind because of that structural dependency that I outlined that dates, I think, really from 1945. So to give you an idea, 70% of cloud computing here in Europe is dominated by 3 American giants, right? And 80% of all digital products, services, infrastructure, et cetera, are from outside the EU, and again, largely American. That made everybody happy for a really long time. That relationship worked until it didn't. So yes, they are behind. Yes, they're going to have to get going. Is it an impossible task? I personally don't think so. I think it's a long-term task. And really, Europe has a problem to solve because right now, its best tech talent and all of its top companies, their goal isn't to become a European version of Google or Anthropic or Microsoft. Their goal usually is to get themselves up to a certain point where they then get acquired by an American technology giant, right? You can make more money listing on the NASDAQ than you can in any European stock exchange. That's the problem they've got to solve. How do they get investment here? How do they keep their best tech talent here so they don't go work in the United States?
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much. Do stay with us, actually, because we're just going to bring back in our panel, Abel Maldonado and Jane Harman. And Jane, is this a question of Europe waking up, not just on tech, but on defence, on energy, trying to carve Europe's own path because it feels, frankly, the United States is no longer a reliable partner?
Yes, I think that's a big part of it. I loved Stephanie's report. Brava, Stephanie. Really thoughtful information. Girls rule. Really, you're superb. But on this point, I was at the Munich Security Conference, a conference I attend every year for the last quarter century, imagine. And I was in the room when our vice president blasted the audience, which was mostly European. He almost spit on them, literally, telling Europe, go away, get lost. We're not going to bankroll you anymore. And the same is true for NATO. And, good luck with that. And it was shocking. And since then, I think the path Europe has taken, most countries, and I think the new election in Hungary helps this path because no longer is Hungary such an outlier, is to find a new way. I mean, Mark Carney got blasted by Trump talking about a rupture. There is a rupture. And I think that there are serious issues now that our government, unfortunately, sadly, horrifically, is not really supporting Ukraine anymore with Russian adventurism into Europe and what will happen to NATO and will we support NATO. But I think that Europe is doing the best it can. And I'm bullish on Europe, just like Stephanie is. And I know a lot about the space program as an example. And I think the European space program is hugely impressive. So okay. I'm smiling.
So, Abel, this is interesting for the Trump administration because on the one hand, we've had them, as we heard, they're in a way scolding Europeans for not doing more to be more independent. But on the other hand, they've been very critical of Europeans' approach to American companies, especially with their digital legislation, saying they're unfairly targeting American companies. So is it kind of trying to have it both ways?
Well, I listened very clearly to what Stephanie said, and to be very sincere with you, I agree with her. Part of the message in America has been America first. And you go off on America first, and then you have our friends on the other side of the pond saying, wait a minute. But the one point I want to make is that it's not America only. It's America first. We are still best of friends. That's going to continue. And hopefully, we can get our act together and come together and move forward. Look, in California, these giant companies in Silicon Valley, they might have a shot at getting them because California government is so bad that they're pushing them out of here that they might end up in Europe. Who knows? Because they're already in Texas. They're already going to Tennessee. So I'm just hopeful that this notion of America first is not America only. And I want the folks to know in Europe that we are going to be friends forever. It's not a slap or a push away at all.
Stephanie, a last word to you. You've had praise heaped on you for your brilliant reporting and analysis, but just conclude the discussion then with your thoughts.
I think ultimately we have to understand that this is going to be a challenge for the whole planet, right? Like, we've got climate change, we've got a lot of political churn. AI is a very energy-intensive, resource-intensive technology, and the supply chains that are going to be required for us to really have the promise of AI be fulfilled are global. What we need are our diplomats and really calm, cool heads to plan for a long-term future. We can ride out any administration, any temporary blips. We need to keep our eye on the longer-term prize, which is prosperity for everybody.
Okay, Stephanie, really interesting point. Thank you so much for joining us. And Jane and Abel, we have to take a short break. We're going to be back with both of you in just a moment around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News.
If you're looking for the future of football, it's going to be me. Capaz que no sabe quién soy todavía. Pero pronto lo